You are listening to episode 86 of The Bastards of Kingsgrave as we join you at the end of 2020, nearing the end of 2020, for another one of our anime manga corners, number 12. As usual, this is Amin, and I'm joined by our usual anime manga crew.
Hi, this is Bill, and I'm Mr. Korb on the forums, which aren't working right now.
And may never be.
Hi, this is Bing, Shushiner on the, I guess,
on the Discord?
Forums, Discord, let's just say Discord.
Yes, Discord.
Right? Let's be
honest.
honest.
We have one other guest joining us today.
Yes, I'm back. This is Zach, also known as Alias on whatever internet place that we're convening in any given moment. And I am going to offer more shocking lack of knowledge, as I tend to do, about anime and manga.
To be honest, at this point, my knowledge is not that much greater than yours.
Well, Zach, you've proven you're Dragon Ball wish worthy. We wished you back.
Yes.
You were worth using those wishes on.
Yes, is it the Namek ones that you can do that multiple times or something? It's been a while.
Is that show still on?
It is. Well, I don't know if the latest one is still on or it's finished now, but I'm expecting there's got to be another movie coming out soon to carry it on, and it's been good actually the last few ones. But before we get into that, let's just talk about. I mean, we are near the end of 2020, only a few days left. Recording this, we had a pandemic year, not a very good year. How did it affect your anime manga viewing at all? Did it increase, decrease, or have any effect?
Sure, I'll start, I guess. It didn't really change that much in the sense that I was not watching that much anime in the past year or so. I guess but the problem is people experience the pandemic differently, and the amount of work I had to do, so I'm a teacher, so I actually feel like I had to do even more work during the pandemic.
Right.
You're teaching online?
Yeah, all my classes
have the whole perspective, right?
And it happened all of a sudden. So I was not trained for any of this, so I had to learn a lot about how to teach online. So there's just simply none of us actually have a lot less time. And we had more time during the summer, I suppose, because a lot of the things I also want to do are now no longer possible. But that didn't really change my anime consumption in the sense that I kind of just sort of, other than like some specific titles, none of the stuff seemed to be that interesting to me, and that's not a comment necessarily on their quality in this, but more I guess it happens though. Like people go, I've experienced this myself several times already in my life that you sort of go in and out of your phases with anime.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's where I'm at.
I guess I'll tag on to that. Is kind of similar to the sense. I think no difference for me. Partially because everyone, maybe initially, like when we had that first few weeks or first month or so, there was more time to consume material. But once you get back to work, a lot of work that you do by distance, like it's not, you might actually be more busy as being either adapting to it or just the fact that like normally you have that divide between home and work. You go to work, you do your work, get home, you're done. But when you're at home, your work leaches into your life. You're like, it'll be 8 o'clock. You're like, well, I might as well work on something. I have nothing to do. Or like, where you normally wouldn't do that normally. So you actually, it's been at best equal for me.
It hasn't changed that much for me. Only thing that really changed was that some of the series I was watching when the pandemic struck were affected by it. Like there was one show I was watching that aired all 3 episodes they had ready at the time, and then they said, well, we'll be back in July. See you later. There was a couple series where they just had like several weeks where there was no new episode, and they would just put out one every so often when they could, and they ended up being like 3 months over schedule by the end of it. There were 61 series in total that were delayed by this, which I think, I think most of it was probably because the voice actors couldn't work because they would have to all be together in the same room and, talking closely to each other, and you can't do that now. So either they have maybe gone to solo recordings or they've worked out some other situation for him to make it safer.
Yeah, I've heard, at least with like English dub actors that I'm more familiar with, just because they're more in our sphere, they've had to like turn their closets into recording studios essentially, and then of course they have to cut together all of the voice lines they're recording in these variously quality environments that they're getting from people, so it makes things tricky.
Well, what about you, Zach? I guess it's been the same. No impact that much.
Well, I think I actually watched slightly more this year than I have before, but I'm not sure that's pandemic related necessarily. I will say I haven't really watched anything from 2020, and that might be because of the delays and everything like that. There hasn't really been a show that like really struck me for whatever reason from the year, but I'm not totally sure if that's because of the pandemic or just because of the year in anime. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
That's kind of another, I guess, question that comes to mind that we're talking about it is, I'm curious to see how the pandemic will actually influence the theme of some shows or things coming out. Like, Bill, have you seen anything come out recently that might have been COVID inspired, or maybe we're a season or two behind that potentially?
Probably. Well, I haven't seen anything that seems to, be pandemic inspired, but since there's usually about 3 to 6 months, well, maybe even more than that, for in pre-production and setting up the stories and whatnot, they'd really have to either do an original series or they'd have to have a manga which has pandemic content in it to adapt from.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Plus, I don't think anybody currently living through a pandemic really wants to watch anything about a pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
other than that first week in which that movie Contagion suddenly went viral. After that, I don't think any of us are interested in. Oh, let's watch something to remind us how miserable our current existence is.
Yeah, I mentioned Cells at Work in that email that we were doing before, and I probably wouldn't. I watched that actually before the pandemic started, so I probably wouldn't have done that if I had done. I mean, it's like a really fun show, and it's very positive about health and all that. At least this version of it, but. Yeah, I don't know if I would want to like do a lot of like stuff about sicknesses and illnesses in this situation.
Well, there's a new season of that coming up in January.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I guess yeah.
I think rather than that, I think the more analogous thing to what we're going through is more like disaster shows or movies, or like post-apocalyptic shows or movies.
That's true. But those are also that took a few years to come into. Actually, I'll touch on that.
Yeah,
in a second.
The production schedules always will take at least 1 year, I think, to plan ahead and then prepare materials and most importantly get investors and monies and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be that fast, especially right now.
Well, I think part of it might be the impact may come out of there, but as you said, it might not be people making shows about pandemics, but almost like they want to do the opposite. They want to think about positive things or something to take your mind away from it. Like that impact may come out in some of the stuff. We'll see. Or it could be more distance, like the disaster generally. But it might have impacts that are not directly seen, but are still there. But in terms of like, I guess movies, because I wanted to talk about seeing movies in theaters, actually, like anime movies in theaters before this all started. In 2019, it was a good year for it. And I saw Weathering with You. Did any of you guys see that movie?
Yes, I saw it.
I did. Sort of.
Skimmed over?
Yeah, I didn't. Makoto Shinkai, I'll be honest with you. He has one theme.
Yes.
and sometimes he makes a really good movie based on that theme, and I think Your Name was a very good movie based upon that theme. But I didn't. Weathering with You is kind of Your Name redacted, which is basically every single Makoto Shinkai movie.
I know. I did enjoy it. Obviously, it wasn't as good as Your Name. I enjoyed it. I found the ending. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I found the ending very interesting. Like the decision made there. Like many people would say you shouldn't make that decision, but others would say, well, why not? So I liked the ending of the movie, and I liked the characters, and it just visually it was nice. I enjoyed seeing it. But
sure.
Part of the experience with these movies is if you can see it in the theater. Like when you go to the theater, especially in the West, everyone there is interested in seeing it. Like it's a special experience when you go there. It's all the closest thing is like a Marvel movie, because anyone in a Marvel movie, most people there want to see it as well, and they've got some experience with the movies. But like that's a special experience that you don't get in a lot of other movie situations. So I was able to see it in the theaters.
Sure. Although I mean, in that case, quality really doesn't matter, I think.
Well, if you run into issues like I saw Ride Your Wave, but then the subs weren't working. So it was just like pure Japanese. We're all sitting there, and then that's like everyone's like complaining, and you get that experience.
Which is unfortunate because I believe that's a much superior movie.
Oh, did you see Ride Your Wave then?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, I did not see any of the DD stuff in theater. So.
That's right, but you saw it yourself, yeah. But Ride Your Wave was good. I enjoyed. In fact, I saw the trailer for Ride Your Wave when I was seeing Weathering with You, because they often give you a preview of other anime movies coming, and again, it was really good experience in theater. But I mean, we saw it later because we didn't understand what was going on, so we had to see it again.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll be talking about the person who made that movie and the studio that made that movie later on as well.
Oh, we have that coming up. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And then just going back, I mean, I talked about seeing Dragon Ball Broly. Again, it was the same experience, and so that's one of the things I'm looking forward to post-pandemic is going back and seeing these anime movies in the theaters. Like, they're worth seeing it. And as you said, Bing, even if the quality in a particular movie you don't think is that good, like as long as it's still an experience, if you can do it. And Zach, if you want to get into these things, go to one of these movies when they come out west. Like the few chances that you get, if they might only have 1 or 2 showings in your city per movie when they come out.
Yeah, hopefully that's the thing that we can get in general. Theaters definitely are not in the best state right now, but I do enjoy that experience generally a lot, and I would love to do that. But I'm sure it may come up at some point, but like the Demon Slayer movie that's so loved in Japan right now, I would love to see that in theaters if that were an option.
Okay, I think next we got a lot to cover today. But next we got Zach had a question or two about manga reading.
Yeah, so this is something I haven't ever really done, and I've just recently even like started getting into just comic book reading. So a lot of the process for me with this kind of stuff is like trying to figure out what stuff is worth buying into, because this, especially comics and manga, I've found are pretty expensive a hobby to get into.
Yep.
And so I would be curious on that front what you guys would recommend starting with. And I'd say it's okay if it's not like a starter manga, but just something that like makes sense as a fun read. But also how do you read it? So for me with comics, I read I use Comixology. I don't actually buy print comics, and of course it's cheaper, which is nice, and that's a good aspect of it. But I also like it because it has this like guided view thing where it like takes you panel to panel as opposed to the full spread on each page, and it like makes the experience a little more cinematic and just a little more easy for me to read, because my eyes are bad. It's bad. I have a hard time just like reading a full spread as easily and just processing everything on it. So is there anything like that exists for manga too? I'd be curious about.
Yeah, so there are many companies like Viz, most importantly, because Viz has to deal with Shonen Jump. So all the big Shonen Jump manga, like Kimetsu no Yaiba, Demon Slayer, and One Piece, and Naruto. Well, I guess it's now Boruto. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, they're not gonna read that.
But Boruto, that was just boring. That's what it stands for.
Sure. I've not watched. I
haven't watched it either.
I haven't seen any Boruto, so I don't care. But like all the big My Hero Academia, right? All these like big shonen title manga, they all are sort of I guess you can say they're published or something like that. But yeah, you can read them online through kind of just like how you watch anime on Crunchyroll or Funimation. You can sign up for a subscription and just get them immediately, or you can sort of wait a few days, right? If you're not subscribed. And I would say that in terms of my comic, I don't actually own that many comics, all that many manga. I don't own, and the few titles I do own, I bought them not because I actually sort of bought them to read them. I bought them just sort of to support the franchises. Like, so I own all of Monster and I own all of Blade of Immortal, but I've read those manga before I even bought those.
I'll say one really good source, although I'm not sure how it is. I'm guessing the States is like this as well. In Canada, the library actually has quite a few manga series there, especially a lot of the older ones. Like if you don't need to read something the second came out, or if it's an older series, there's probably multiple copies of it in the library, and really worth trying out there. Like if you go with either like some of the names we recommend, or just go take a browse sometime. Library is great, and often like if you find one there or you find one otherwise that you really like the ones that I really like, I do buy the physical copies, like One Punch Man. I just like to collect them generally. But if I'm just kind of more browsing, then as Bing said, there's the online services that you can go to as well. But there's also the review copies we get. Well, my stance on it is if the thing is not even available in English, then what am I supposed to do? Like if it's not even published here, if it is available in English, almost always it is in the library or online official sources. So
yeah, I guess I need to explore some of that aspect too, because I think for me, like, I wouldn't be interested maybe in reading the like the big shonen stuff. I think I'm content with anime for any of that kind of stuff I might be into. I think it'd be more stuff that either isn't available in anime form or is like more highly regarded, I would say.
We'll partly answer that. I guess some of the stuff we've been reading as coming up, we have maybe some recommendations for you. So I guess we'll move on. What we've seen last episode. Yeah. So Oren Host Club. I think has Bill? You've seen that, right?
Yes.
Probably Bing as well. You're familiar with it. Oren Host Club was a pretty popular manga and anime, and so that mangaka moved on, and she did something called Urakata, or behind the scenes. Now this is one of those manga that probably is at the library. And it wasn't that many volumes. I enjoyed it. Like it was dealt with a kind of a college club, which is nice. College, not all this high school stuff all the time, right? It was a college club that kind of does volunteer stuff for like the movie club and that kind of stuff. They do props, like they prepare props and other stuff. They're a bunch of artists really, and I enjoyed it. Like I thought it was a pretty well done manga. It wasn't that long, and I read it through the library. Like I didn't.
She sure likes her clubs.
Yeah, but she has some good themes. I mean, there's comedy in there, but it was. I mean, Oren Host Club is more tinted toward like a female audience, but of course men can enjoy it and it's fine. But I'm just saying it's more tilted toward female. Whereas this one, it was more gender neutral. Like I didn't feel like it was tinted toward male or female. Like there was a mix of male and female characters and interesting stuff going on.
So I watched all Oran High School Host Club and the manga. I feel like the anime is, I mean the manga is fine,
mm-hmm.
but I think that the reason why the anime is become sort of such a highly regarded property is that the director really sort of elevated the material and just made it like 5 times funnier,
mm-hmm.
and just really leaned in.
It is just hilarious. Like in both the English and the original.
Yeah.
Japanese, like with the subs, it's such a good comedy, but the characters are interesting and play on. Well, I mean, it's a reverse harem theoretically, right? But it's not a bad one.
Well, I mean, the really sort of the anime really emphasized the comedic side and had a lot of really cool direction choices that made the property much better. Yeah.
Well, the manga is really, really, really long. Like. I can't recommend it, but once you get into it, you get sucked into it. So as a completionist, especially, I finished it. I wasn't like I hated this. I still enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. But you're right. I think the anime is more the highlights of it, and which shows what a good director can do with already good material. Like they can make even more out of it, right? So yeah. But that's why I was saying behind the scenes there's no anime for it. It's just a manga. But I found it an enjoyable read. It was available in the library. I didn't have to really wait for it, and took all the volumes and read it. So that was cool. Now, again, talking about quality manga, I kind of started my own reading project. We covered this, Zach, on an earlier episode, a manga called My Girl. My Girl is a good read. Like, that's worth it. But it was one of the ones that's not available. Like, if it was available in English, I'd buy it. Like, I would like to have that in my collection and support the artist. But it's not available. So you can't get it through official sources, but it is online. And it was a good read. Like, you're the one who recommended it, Bing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so. Bill read it as well. I think he powered through it.
Yeah, I don't have a real great memory of it.
Yeah, but
what's the premise of this one?
Bing, do you want to give it or should I?
I mean, you probably should.
Sure. Okay, basically, it's this guy who's working now. So he's post college or whatever. He's a young 20-year-old guy, and he finds out that he has like child. Because he had like a fling with a first love in his last year of high school. And she became pregnant but didn't tell him, and then went away with the child. And now this is very early in the manga. The mother has passed away, so he ends up with just a younger daughter to take care of. And so he's kind of like, he becomes a parent out of nowhere, and he's dealing with that issue. But second, he's kind of wrestling with the whole issue of he really loved the mother, and she kind of just like left his life. He didn't know why. This is why she did. She didn't want to like ruin his life or whatever. That's what her thought. He thought I wouldn't let him to go live his life. So he's kind of dealing with the dual issues of being a parent, but also like this whole like melancholy and remembering his first love situation. There's actually a whole like part one of that, like the whole father taking care of a daughter or son. Like there's a whole like genre of manga of that in Japan. Now some of them are horribly done. This is not one of them. This is the good ones. We've covered the bad ones, right? Was it Usagi Drop? Was the bad one?
Let's not talk about that.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Could select that.
Worth
Sure,
it.
review copy. Give me a review copy.
Yeah,
on
we
that
give you a review copy. We had we reviewed it, and once if you end up reading and enjoying it, you can check out the episode itself.
Cool thing. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
It's a while ago, yeah.
One of the first corner ones, I think, actually. So
Okay.
and it's not too long. I mean, you know what? Like, I don't want. I mean, sometimes if it's really really good, I don't care if it's long, but like it's the right length. You know,
Right.
It's not like volumes and volumes and volumes. Like but so this mangaka though, because reading this work, like I could tell she actually wants to convey a message, or she has things to think about. Like some mangaka, they just want. I mean, I'm not to insult them. Like if they produce good, or they're just producing work. Like it's almost like is My Hero Academia? Is that person trying to convey a message, or are they just pumping out like?
There's some message there. I feel like Horikoshi has something to say. It's not completely.
There is something there. Otherwise, it would be like
It's not like One Piece right now, in which you can tell that Oda is just being strapped into a chair, that being at gunpoint, being forced to drama.
At some point, he may have had artistic intentions, but now he's being milked for all it's worth.
I think it's gone beyond what
He's going through the motions, or he said, yeah, okay, yeah. And My Hero, I mean, there is something there. Otherwise, it would not be it would not reach the heights that it has reached without that bit of the inspiration there. But yeah, this mangaka in particular has a lot to say. And so I became interested. Okay, well, I want to read more of her work. None of it is available like formally here, but it is online. There's fans of it. So there's a few I read the past year. One, actually, there's one that we reviewed was I don't know if I wrote down the name. Tesuka Letra. And so that mangaka is funny. It's about this guy who ends up switching shoes with this girl. He ends up he ends up giving his basketball shoes to this girl who kind of feels like not happy with her body because she's really tall and gainly and stuff. And then he ends up getting like dancing shoes from this girl, and he ends up going to a dancing club. and their interaction is kind of interesting. And so we reviewed that on the podcast, and it was an interesting read. It was good. But after that, I read these other ones. It's Suya-san, which deals with a teacher who can, when she draws things, they come into life, which is kind of cool. And not a super long manga, but again, that kind of melancholy and like relationships type thing. Another one, it dealt with this guy who has like a pigtail. She's really creative. This
sure.
And this guy, and he like struggles to he tries to hide it and stuff. He's different. It's just a genetic thing. He just has like a pigtail. It's not actually a pigtail, but something like shaped like a tail, right? And so he has to kind of like accept himself. But it seemed like it was more based toward a younger audience, that one. Which is fair enough. I mean, like if you're providing something to a younger audience to help, accept yourself, you're different, it's okay, type of thing. And then the last one was particularly interesting. I'll put the links to it. I'm not going to try to pronounce the names; they're too long. But it dealt with a guy who's on death row, and there's in Japan, and there's other character who's a young pianist who had a very difficult life, and she's like kind of very dealing with emotional issues and depression. And they kind of start to interact with each other. She starts going to the prison to see him, and then you kind of see the guy like he's on death row. He's done a horrible thing, but the mangaka kind of shows like how he got there and what like his life was getting him there, and then kind of questions like, well, does he deserve to die now? Like actually like the way he got there, and it's interesting. Like there's actually depth to it. So all these reads I found was interesting. Like this mangaka is a good one. But what I would recommend is check out My Girl. If you like My Girl, you can always move on to these later. But this is kind of my like reading project that I had the past year. Reading this person's work. Yeah.
So following from that, I'm curious, like, how do you discover the things that you want to read next? Like, what is your process for finding new stuff?
Well, if I know a mangaka who's already good, I go to my anime lists all the anime, but then it'll go to my Manga. It's like a sub site, and then I'll
Yeah.
look up the mangaka and I'll see their other work, and then there's reviews and ratings. People have rated it, so that's how I kind of like. Once I know if one person is good, then I follow from there. I kind of go to see their other work and see what's popular, and then I pick it up and try it out from there. That's one route, and the other route is you can just generally browse my Manga and see what's rated highly there. My Manga, and also like there's other sites out there I think that have reviews.
Yeah, I kind of just do this where I'm like, I talk to people and ask them, what do you think I should do? That's typically how I go. But yeah, I've been to some of those sites as well. And that's probably a good route as well.
I mean, I'm a terrible person to ask this question because I stopped reading new manga.
You read super old, but long-running manga. Like what was it? What's the one that we talked about on this show? Was it Vinland Saga or something?
Oh yeah, Vinland Saga. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it is super old now. But, I mean, the anime for Vinland Saga just came out though. But yeah, no. But like, another way you can go is, and which I did. When I still care to read new manga, was to go and look up like the award-winning mangas like the Eisner awards and stuff like that. Which and typically those avenues, well, these are rated not just by an audience of sort of like people who only read anime, who only watch anime and read manga, but people who actually explore other genres and actually can. So if you're more of a general audience, then that's probably.
Well, I think the Yu-Gi-Oh mangaka won the Eisner Award, so there you go. You're a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, hey.
I established my manga taste with that. Yeah.
Well, Bill or Bing, do you have any recommendations for Zach for manga to read, or maybe we'll get to that when we get to what you've been reading.
We'll get to it.
Yeah,
we'll get to it. Oh, another way I see stuff is going to conventions, or especially Comic-Con. They have like an annual best manga anime panel where they talk about stuff. So I watched this online manga called Shimanami Tatsugari, and it's a slice of life manga, but it dealt with LGBT experiences in Japan. So I found that pretty interesting reading that to see how that issue was dealt with in Japan. It was a progressive manga, and it was good. It's a good read. Again, not super long, easy read to get through. So yeah, like another place I see is like those kind of review panels or groups where they talk about what's good. But yeah, you just what your friends like is a good source, as you said, because you may have similar tastes, right? All right, let's move on here. Then we got a lot to get through, but that's good. So what I've been watching recently. My girlfriend is a Yu-Gi-Oh fan actually, and she kind of collects cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and so we started watching Yu-Gi-Oh. But what's weird about it is we actually kind of jumped into the movies first, which are like the latest thing. So I was like, what the heck's going on here? Like I have no background in this. And then the movies are fine, but it's confusing. Then we went back to the original series, and now it's like making more sense to me. I watched the first season. And so, Zach, you actually watched it when you were a kid? Like, you grew up on Yu-Gi-Oh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, big time.
More kid stuff?
Yeah, so that is what I watched, yes. And Yu-Gi-Oh! In general was a huge part of my growing up. I can't think of, like, anything from my childhood I was more obsessed with than playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And collecting the cards.
Did you have the cards as well?
Oh yeah.
The cards
Oh no, I don't still have them anymore, unfortunately.
Throw them out in the garbage, or
they totally did. I wish I still had them.
They're like, oh, I thought you didn't want these cards. I just threw them in the garbage. You're like, I could have got my money back for those cards.
Yeah, some of them are pretty valuable still. It's kind of still a thing, but I don't think I would have had any PSA 10s to trade. But yeah, I loved it.
Well, now actually we have a bunch of cards. We've been collecting cards.
Okay.
So we've got a lot.
What's your girlfriend's favorite card if she has one?
Dark Magician.
Good pick. Yeah.
Also Blue Eyes, because there's just so many different artwork for it, right? But part of the collection for Yu-Gi-Oh! Is really the artwork. That's not so much for their card games.
Right, there's so many variations of some of those major cards.
So many, which I mean, I know what they're doing. Like they're just trying to get people to buy all of them. Like they're just going to do every possible variation. Oh, we got another one. Oh shit, now my collection is not complete. I got to buy this other one, and then gold copy, and then like silver. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Does like very well compared to other cards. Like it really puts like silver, like it makes very colorful cards, like different and stuff. Although I
secret rares.
You got to be careful with these, because the problem with these is if you keep touching with your grubby fingers, they'll oxidize. in 10, 15 years and look like shit, I think. So you got to be
Yeah.
they're not built to last, I think. But yeah, they have good artwork though. That's part of the collecting thing. But we watched season 1. We watched the whole Pegasus Island thing.
Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh is when they still like pretend that this is a show about like just a kid interested in games in general rather than a vehicle to sell card games, right? Because that's the only season I've watched of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Well, it's without getting too much into the storyline. There actually is an interesting storyline going on with this whole like ancient Egypt stuff. But season 1, like they use the old rules. Like you can just summon anything. So
there's no rules at all.
I just play it. Like,
I just do whatever the hell I want. There's an episode with a whole maze that has nothing to do with the game. It completely changes how things work. Yeah.
Season 2 is they actually start to kind of get a rule set that's similar to what the game has. Like that. But it's interesting. Like I like some of the characters. It's fun. But the problem with this Yu-Gi-Oh is a problem with a lot of the anime of the 90s is that there's a lot of like flashbacks and delays.
Yeah.
It takes like 4 episodes to get through like one of these matches. Like what the hell's going on here? And nobody when you play, I don't know if you when you played Yu-Gi-Oh you tell like do you say like I'm gonna like slash through your character? Nobody does that. They just say I attack.
I never went to the Shadow Realm in my games, unfortunately. Whatever they call it in the Japanese.
The epic shit talk it was not that much. You just play your card and you play it.
Yeah, although I will tell you, if you've gotten to the second season, I definitely had a toy dual disc, like the thing they strap on their arm. And we acted some stuff out with those for sure. Absolutely.
See,
you don't still have that. That can be your cosplay.
Switch that did.
I was into Magic the Gathering. I cannot be into yet another card game, trading card game to leash my life.
Well, I was in the Magic the Gathering growing up, but we're not. The way we're collecting Yu-Gi-Oh is not like, we want to have like the best deck. We don't even play the damn game. We just like to collect the cards, just for the hardware.
Card collecting in general has become a huge thing lately. I'm not sure why, but I've seen a ton of stuff about people doing this kind of thing.
Okay, so that's Yu-Gi-Oh, I guess. So I'll talk about it again as we get further into it. We're still in season 2 right now, but the 4Kick dub is hilarious. So like they cut so much stuff. Like they basically like they can't say anything about like people dying, so they just say Shadow Realm, which is can be worse.
They have the spinning blades that will obviously chop your leg off. Those are actually connected to a shadow device that will send you to the...
They won't harm your physical body, but they'll send your mind into the Shadow Realm. Will leave you for eternity. Okay, is that better than getting your leg chopped off? But that actually is worse, I think.
I'd actually prefer my legs being chopped off than being trapped in the realm of torment, I think, probably.
for all life, like for eternity, yeah. Well, that's the thing. They have like they're dueling like on top of the skyscraper, and there's glass, and then they're like, if you lose, it'll break and you'll fall down, but you won't hit the ground. You'll actually be transported to the Shadow Realm. It's like,
it's incredible. It's just pure comedy to me at this point.
And then one of the guys falls through, and he's got like a parachute, and he parachutes, and he's okay. And I'm like, shouldn't he have even parachuted to the Shadow Realm? Like,
he got the Shadow Realm.
Doesn't matter where he has a parachute. He still would have been transported to the Shadow Realm. So it's just. Yeah. But the one time they don't censor it is when they're going to get dragged into the ocean. Apparently that's okay. You can get dragged into the ocean. It's not into the Shadow Realm. You could just drown. That was. I guess they couldn't. There was only so much they could do.
They can't censor the whole ocean. It's too big. So you're watching it in Japanese then?
No, we're actually watching the 4K.
Okay,
because that's what you watched it back then.
Of course.
And I don't know, like there's some. I mean, a lot of things I do watch in Japanese, but I'm still like, is Yu-Gi-Oh that much better in Japanese? Probably not. So I'm gonna just watch it the 4Kids and enjoy like just the way it was back then. See what that experience was, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So positive. On another old show that I did see. Again, my girlfriend was a fan of it back in the day, and we kind of rewatched it. Was Code Geass, and Bing, you have a lot of experience with it back in the day, I guess.
Code Geass. I mean, I've watched all of it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to think of these shows as old shows. Code Geass I still think of them as new, as like a modern show, but I guess it's over a decade old now.
Yeah.
Which is,
but I mean, it was new at the time. It did a lot of things that I think were new at the time, maybe, or at least like the spin on it. Like I Did you watch season 1 and then you had to wait for season 2?
I watched Code Geass while it was coming out every episode.
Oh wow!
Let me tell you, the discussions of Code Geass was fun during that time. People, so at the beginning, because it was Code Geass' literal train ride into, which is very apt analogy, especially after season 2, because at the beginning, all the discussion about Code Geass is sort of the setup, which is like, is this like some sort of ultra-national, some show about Japanese ultra-nationalism, some sort of ultra-right-wing show. But as the show go on, people realize, oh no, this is not a show about anything. This is just a train wreck show. And people watch every episode just to see how ridiculous the plot is going to become, especially after season 2.
Well, season 1 I think was the highlight. It was really good, and then it had like cliffhangers that it must have been terrible. People had to wait. It was like the Next Generation type cliffhangers. You had to wait till next season and I don't think it was 1 year. I think it was longer, maybe.
It was 2 years. And there was the thing is, what they did is they released character arts, and if you watched Code Geass, you know that there was a new character that just showed up randomly in season 2, at the beginning of season 2, and they released art of that character without really telling us what this character is supposed to be, but putting him into situations as if he has been there all along.
Yeah. Well, that was a couple of the episodes that was like that, but I found I enjoyed it overall. I enjoyed the ending overall, and there actually was, like Madoka Magica, they released movies after that, like 3 movies that kind of go into it. The first 2, like Madoka Magica, are just different recaps of a different retelling of the TV series, and the third one is new material. And what's interesting about the first 2, I won't say the character that died, but there's a character that died in the anime that survives
came back to life, right?
in the movie, and then in the movie they basically said, or I think the person doing the subtitles was like, we basically did these 2 movies for you to survive. Now get out of here before you die. We did 2 movies to bring you back.
Yeah, so those movies came out in just a couple years ago, right?
Recently, yeah. And the third one just came out a year or 2 ago. Like we just missed seeing it in the theaters. Like if we'd gone into it more recently, we would have seen it in the theaters. I enjoyed it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think if you're going to pick up the Code Geass, I think the best way to watch it is just not to take it seriously.
Yes. Yeah. Just enjoy the dialogue.
Show seems like it wants you to take it seriously, but just don't take it seriously.
No, there's no. I mean, some of the things that come out of it, there really is no there's no logic. What happened? Like I don't know, but they had a good line.
It's a meme show.
Yes. Well, but you know what's exciting about it apparently is there's another movie or series coming out. There was news. The anniversary or something of the show was a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if it's a movie or a TV series. I think a new TV series is coming out.
So with Code Geass, there was when the show was coming out, there was a bunch of random manga that sort of goes into all sorts of territories. Which I guess in that case that's also kind of like Madoka in that these are all sort of spawns that came out from the original franchise. And I assume that these movies have something to do with all those manga spawns.
Yeah. Well, it's not only you said memes. There was still some theorizing at the very end of the show that people say like may have influenced the third movie, or they say, oh no, the third movie disproves it. But they did have a lot of discussion. There's a lot of discussion, and that's fun. I like to see that stuff.
Sure.
Happen there.
Code Geass. I will say that Code Geass sort of kind of destroyed the Manga franchise. In a sense that almost every mecha show subsequent to Code Geass is some sort of Code Geass clone. Except I don't think they truly understand that Code Geass is a meme show.
Well, you can also see like the evolution of the fan service between the 2 seasons. Like the first season wasn't that much, and then season 2 increases. It's like then a downhill after then. It's like more fan service. It shows.
Well, now you've got my attention.
The entire plot, well, it's not just fan service in terms of which there is a lot, but the whole plot became fan service. Like all this plot developments, you can see they don't have any logic to it because they're just giving the fans what they want.
Yeah, we saw the Code Geass. There was like a European series of movies of stuff happening there, and again, it didn't really make any sense It was just like, oh, nice graphics and machines fighting, but it wasn't logical.
Yeah, that's a show that I've like vaguely wanted to watch for a really long time, but there's always been some better option anytime I've considered it. But maybe at some point I'll get to that one.
Okay, so let's move on here. I wanted to talk about the quintessential quintuplets. Is that the right? That's the English translation, like the five twins. Anime and manga. It's a harem anime and manga. It's over now. Like the manga's over. I think that the anime the next season's coming up. It's catching up to the manga. And this was an interesting series. I think because I don't like harem anime or manga generally, but what this series did a few things in the right. I think 2 steps in the right direction to help redeem this genre. It dropped the violence. I don't remember there being a lot of violence, if at all. Like, usually the guy getting punched, whatever. There was no violence going on. Dropped down the perv elements. I don't think the guy was a perv. The main character actually was interesting, and he was smart, and he had some personality. The father, the adopted father guy was interesting. There's other interesting characters. There's this guy who kind of adopts the twins, and he was interesting. I respected him, like the fact that he was helping raising them and stuff. It wasn't his kids, and in some sense the ending broke some tropes. So, but that being said, a lot of people complain about it being rushed at the end. Do you think that's accurate, Bill?
I don't know about it being rushed. I haven't read the manga, so I couldn't tell you how the pacing works out. The most criticism I saw of it was really of the art quality of the anime, but I think that has more to do that they sort of blew their budget on the voice actresses. So with this next season coming up in about a week or so, I'm hoping that maybe they were able to get a little more money to, bring the artwork up to par.
Well, I guess maybe we'll hear back from you after you see this the next season. We'll see what you thought of the ending. I assume it might actually get to the end now that the manga's over. Although you said there's a sequel also coming out to this, or is that something else?
No, the anime is getting a second series.
Oh, okay, that's what you meant. Okay. Yeah. Who's your favorite twin then?
God. I think I'd have to go with Miku.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, the person who runs Manga Deck's website is a fan of Miku. He actually has part of the site changes to be like Miku Decks there. But
I think there was one day where the site was not working when you loaded it up. It was just a big picture of her.
That's right. I think I remember. I guess this person's a fan of the work and that person. But I think the things that I covered, it's just I thought was good because I thought just harem anime manga is just so bad. Has the past 10, 15 years just been so bad. It used to be funny, and then it was just beaten to a death. But just the way this didn't have any violence, the guy wasn't a perv. These changes put some interesting there. Well, because harem, all harem is just a more extreme love triangle, right? And a lot of works are interesting with love triangle, right? So you can have an interesting work, and I found this interesting. The characters were interesting. They actually had distinct personalities. They fall into the tropes or whatever, but they kind of break the tropes a bit. So I thought it started very well. Just the ending was a little bit questionable, but that doesn't regret reading it. I thought it was still enjoyable. So another more neutralish one was Just Because. It was an anime series. I don't know if it has a manga or not. I saw it. It was one season. What I remember from that show is certain characters finally manned up. They're like, okay, about time, guy, man out. So that was good to see, but it didn't leave a lasting impact for me.
No. I like
the music.
I like the ending theme song, but that's about all I took away from it.
You remember it just because of the ending music.
Yes.
Okay, negative reviews. Very quickly, I want to just bash a show that I saw actually quite a few years ago, but I forgot about, called Golden Time, and it was just really annoying because just sometimes people it was just general not a slice of life, but kind of a university type people living at university, but just some of their reactions and the character are so extreme, but it's just ridiculous. Sometimes people push these. I don't know. They run out of ideas and they come up with really crazy things and crazy character arcs, and I just found it unbelievable and stupid. So I'll bash that there. Okay, so now we're gonna get into things that Bing has been reading or reviewing.
Okay. What did I mention? Oh yeah. The thing is, all of these are titles probably these are so I've not been watching much anime at all, and a lot of the manga I've been reading are just stuff I've been reading forever. And to be honest, I've sort of fallen off My Hero Academia as well. And following Berserk is not very hard because there's been what 2 chapters published?
Yeah, something like that.
in the past year.
It's ridiculous.
It's my kind of pace.
Eric's crying in the corner. He's like, no, it's never.
I read those 2 chapters. They were fine. But yeah, so the only really franchise I've been following closely is Vinland Saga, especially because the anime of Vinland Saga came out last year on Amazon. So I've watched Vinland Saga, and I would recommend Vinland Saga. It's a very good adaptation. I have no idea if more is going to come out. It seems to be pretty well reviewed, but I don't know if it has been watched a lot. It's hard to tell with these Amazon and Netflix shows exactly how many people actually watched it, right? But yeah, the manga is definitely, the Vinland Saga manga is definitely reaching its sort of the last arc, and it's definitely going to its sort of the final point of the manga. So once that franchise finishes, I have no idea what I'm going to be reading everywhere.
For Berserk, they should do a mangaka switch to the guy who runs One Piece. They can put him in charge of Berserk and vice versa.
Great idea.
Yeah, and then both franchises can end, I guess, immediately.
He'll get Berserk over, and the other one will finally stall, which will be good.
I mean, at this point, you just send, I don't know, send a mangaka of Berserk to the latest Idolmaster game, and
Yeah.
I'll be if you really just want to end the franchise.
Yeah, with Vinland Saga, I love the anime for that, which I guess I actually did technically watch this year. That feels like a billion years ago, but I watched through the whole thing at the beginning of 2020. And it's actually one of the only manga that I've read anything of. I've read like the first 16 chapters of it only, but I would like to read more.
Published by Dark Horse. Yeah, there you go. And that's one of the few manga that I have actually regularly bought volumes of because I do like because it is one of the franchises I do want to support. So I'm not sure if it is streaming on Dark Horse right now. Probably not, because I don't think they have the manga app. Presumably season 1. I'm going to assume season 1 of Vinland Saga.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. The anime ends. I mean, you saw at the ending, it says the end of prologue, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Prologue.
Vinland Saga takes a very, very, very huge tonal shift after that. And the main character, I mean, you can see that there will be a character changing moment at the very end of the show.
Yeah.
And he does sort of change significantly after that. So it becomes a lot less violent. I'm just going to put it this way. There's a lot less. If you're into Vinland Saga for Vikings killing each other, Vinland Saga will cease to be that after the end of the point in which the first anime ends. So just word of warning.
Yeah, luckily that's not a problem. That is not the reason why I really like the show.
Good. But yeah, so Vinland Saga, I started reading that. So the other manga that I've read and watched, and so this thing I mostly just want to talk about, not so much in terms of the actual show itself, but just in so much what it has become in Japan. Because Kimetsu no Yaiba or Demon Slayer, this thing is now just came out of nowhere in 2019. Or the anime came out in 2019. The manga has been publishing before that. But when the anime came out, it kind of had the Attack on Titan effect, except 10 times of that.
Yeah.
100 times of that, whatever, like astronomical number you want to put into it. So just to put this in context, so all the anime series came out in 2019, right? And then, but this year, the movie of Demon Slayer came out this year. That movie has just now surpassed Spirited Away to be the #1 movie of all time.
In the middle of COVID.
In the middle of COVID.
Wow.
It's crazy. And I was reading a stat adjacent to that it sold 82 million copies, the manga.
Yes. It sold 10 times One Piece, the next highest franchise.
It's insane.
50% of people in Japan, like of kids in Japan, apparently look up to the main character of Kimetsu no Yaiba as their hero, according to an anime news network interest column.
So how did this happen? Why is it so big?
It's hard to say. Because the manga is good, and the show they're good, but I think it's not that much different than your typical shonen formula. It's definitely more violent, and I think the main character is just different enough that he appeals to a much greater audience. So like typical shonen protagonists are sort of like these dumb, brash idiots, right? Naruto, Luffy in One Piece, Goku. The main character of Kimetsu no Yaiba he's much more earnest. Tanjiro, he's much more earnest. He's smarter. He's a family guy. I don't know. Maybe these are just sort of character traits that are just enough. The other, so he's doing this to save his younger sister who was attacked by. But the premise is his whole family was attacked by demons and murdered by demons, with the exception of his sister who is about to transform into a demon. But so he's on a quest to both hunt down the demon that murdered his family, but also to rescue his sister and try to return her back to a human. And his sister, I guess, is a character in the show that says nothing except grunts, because she's a demon and she has a wooden bamboo thing stuck in her mouth the entire show.
A character that I feel much like Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian was designed to be like the most popular character ever. I think that's an element for sure.
Yeah, definitely. There's the moe element to that, I guess. And the thing is, and just to speak of the movie itself, it's even crazier when you consider that the movie of Kimetsu no Yaiba, it's a direct sequel to the show. Like it's literally you watch the show and then the movie is the next portion of the manga. It's not your typical shonen movie where it's like a completely independent plot line, in which if you're just somewhat familiar with the characters, you can go and watch it. You have to have watched all of the show to watch this movie, or else the movie makes no sense in terms of plot. But as you can see, almost everybody in Japan watched that movie anyways.
My theory on, and this can't fully explain the massive popularity, but my theory on why this became such a huge thing in part is because, for me, I think most of the show itself is just good. But the episode 19 with the animation, with everything that happens in that, which I won't get into for this, but
sure,
it's so good. That is like a 12 out of 10 episode. It's so good, and I think it just completely exploded the show with how good it was. That just had ripple effects in all kinds of ways. I think that's a huge element.
Yeah, the show is animated by Ufotable, who up to this point have infamously been the studio that's been attached to all the Fate projects. And they sort of hit the absolute home run, I guess, with this show. But it's really, really well. It is spectacularly animated compared to any other shonen show. So maybe that's also another element to it, because most other shonen, and I guess because how short it is also goes into its favor. Like Bleach, Naruto, these shows, they come out every week. They have to pump them out every week, and their animation quality is laughable at times.
Yeah.
And the manga is over, right? It's done.
Oh, then the manga's over. The manga's over.
Yeah, so it's not going to be like One Piece, where it's just coming out forever.
No. Yeah. The manga is actually, I think the last, I'm interested in how they adapt the last portion of the manga, because it gets really brutal. And so I think that's actually the best part of Demon Slayer. But yeah, so I don't know, this thing just sort of completely dominated and anime anything. That the past 2 years.
What's the time period? Is it in modern day, or is it?
I believe it's set in it's set in the beginning of 20th century, something like it's like that. But it's like sort of an alternate setting. which like you have the beginning of modern technology, but you also have a lot of traditional aspects. Yeah, so it does have that sort of appeal to it. But yeah, so that's Demon Slayer. Anybody else have anything to say about this thing?
Well, I guess Zach, you've been watching it as well. Then you both have seen it. That's good. Would you recommend seeing it?
Yeah, I've watched the anime. I haven't read any of the manga. I don't like it enough that I want to go read the manga. It's not that kind of thing for me. But though I'm sure it's good. I'm sure the manga is really good as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just a really good shonen. Like I think it's higher quality than like even the best of My Hero Academia, which I would generally consider to be for the most part a pretty high quality anime. And like Bing has said, the animation is outstanding. It's some of the best I've ever seen, certainly with this kind of show, and with something that has like a longer running format with I think like 26 episodes it had in the season that we've had.
Yeah,
they should have got these guys for One Punch Man season 2.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
These guys were doing this, so
yeah.
So for One Punch Man season 3 then. Please.
It's got a mostly good pace. It's fun. The characters are good, and there's a sort of a mimetic quality to some of them that you definitely get attached to, and I think is part of why it's so popular. And they have really great moments. And yeah, like I say, like it has one really amazing episode in that first season, and it's enough that I'm definitely eagerly awaiting a chance to see that movie that has come out in the West, and whatever else they come up with it.
Yeah, I mean, imagine going to see that movie with a bunch of fans, or even people. I guess even there might be people who might not even be necessarily fans, but they're just interested in the movie. As you said, it might be interesting. If they don't have the background to missing stuff, but even then, they'll still enjoy it. I think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it does out here. Of course, COVID's an element, and I think an even more modifying element here with theaters. So we'll see what that.
It doesn't. I mean, it's not going to have the same sort of cultural impact.
Yeah,
Demon Slayer hasn't become sort of mainstream in Japan here as it has completely in Japan.
That's true.
But yeah, I have no idea how it's going to do here. But I'm certain that whoever has the license would definitely try to do something with it.
Yeah, you have to wonder with the manga ending, them not realizing it would be this. They'll be like, wait a minute, maybe we should do a spin-off or like a little direction.
Well, the manga ended. It's already, everybody realizes this now.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe I guess the movies, push things even further up a notch, and show this like the staying power. But well, we'll see. We'll see if there's
something to be said about. I mean, the fact that they actually finished the manga. The mangaka probably had an arc plan, had everything planned out, and did it properly, and that's part of the quality, maybe.
I would say, if anything, the ending was kind of rushed. So that's actually interesting.
Well, then maybe they'll rework the ending then for the.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, so that's Demon Slayer. Anybody else have anything to say about that before I move on to the other thing?
Unless Bill has something to say, but I don't.
No, I've watched it and I liked it.
Yeah.
Cool.
The other show it's basically the only other show I watched this year. Yeah, basically, is a show called Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken, which earlier you mentioned, Ride Your Wave. So this is a show produced by the same studio, Sai and Saru, and which is it's a studio founded a guy named by what's his name, Yuasa. Yeah, I suddenly forgot his first name. Masaaki Yuasa, right? And so Yuasa has done a bunch of sort of more experimental, you can say, shows and movies. They're anime that sort of they're enjoyed by a very specific sector in the anime fandom.
Yes.
Those who really appreciate like animation, right, and production and all that sort of stuff, more technical aspects.
Mm-hmm.
But his popularity in the West blew up in 2018 when he made a Netflix show called Devilman Crybaby. Since then he has gotten much more, I guess, general attention, I think. And so Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken is a show that's basically about making an anime. It's about three girls who form sort of an anime club, an animation club. in which they actually try to make their own animation, and it goes into really really deep details about how do you actually make an anime, and especially the focus is mainly on the creative aspect, and the show does a lot to sort of show you sort of the creative process of coming up with a project. But there's also sort of one of the members of the club is this sort of more producer figure. And her focus is how do we come up with money to actually make these things possible. So it gives you sort of that aspect as well. So and it's to me it's just very pleasant to just appreciate watching sort of the creative process just being displayed, and I think it's very highly rated, not just within the anime circles, because apparently New York Times has rated Eizouken as one of the best shows to watch in 2020 period this year. So there you go.
Wow.
It's streaming on Crunchyroll, I believe. But the studio, Science Saru, they have signed a deal with Netflix, so I assume that they're going to do a lot more things with Netflix in the near future. And this is a studio which is founded by Yuasa, but along with a Korean woman named Yoon Choi, and it's a much more sort of a global studio. And they hire a lot more animators from abroad, and they're much more influenced sort of by not just by sort of anime, otaku culture, but much more by animation from all over the world. So they're much more oriented to a global audience. But yeah,
good.
That's sort of
Worth trying out. Then I guess we'll put that on the watch list potentially.
Yeah.
How long is the season?
13 episodes.
13. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's pretty short. Yeah. And that's basically it for me. Otherwise, yeah, what I said is basically there's a few movies coming up that I may care about or not. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Evangelion anymore.
Yeah, I know, it's been so long.
I forgot what the last movie is about.
Did you ever really know what it was about?
Well, then the movies are not that hard to understand.
Okay,
yeah. It's one of those ones you might want to watch in the audience, assuming it's post-pandemic. You can release it.
Yeah, sure.
Or Sailor Moon Super S, I guess, is. Although isn't it the same movie? Like, didn't they already have this? Are they just reworking the same movie they already had?
They haven't. This is the remake. This is still the remake of Sailor Moon, but essentially they turned the next season into a movie. They turned Super S into a movie. I don't know whether it is to contain that plot so that you can jump over it if you don't want to, because Super S is notoriously the least liked part of original Sailor Moon show.
Well, it's not a remake of the anime. Right.
It's
Super
an adaptation of the manga.
Of the manga Super S,
portion, of Super S, or whatever it's called in the manga.
Yeah.
But if you really love Chibiusa, the character, this is your movie to watch, I guess, along with her horse boyfriend, I guess. I feel like Toei just keeps screwing up with this Sailor Moon remake, whether they intended to or not. They could have just turned this into keep going on with the show thing, and the Crystal was the last season of Sailor Moon Crystal wasn't that bad.
Right.
It was a significant improvement. They changed directors, they changed animation style. But now they're turning into a movie in an age of a pandemic, so good luck with that.
Okay, that's good. We had a good update from you, and your short but sweet. You focus on the good stuff.
Yes, I don't know.
Curated taste.
I just don't watch much anymore. That's it.
So we're going to follow up now with Bill on a couple of series. Like, he's got more to talk about later as well, but what we have here. So past series you talked about and what your thoughts are now on them.
Well, let's see here. You have you mentioned that series Koi wa Ameagari no Yoni from about 3 years ago. That was the one where this high school girl sort of falls in love with her boss,
Mhm.
and it's handled very tastefully.
Like first, I mean, she was injured, and then she ends up working
Right.
this place.
Yeah,
right?
she
She
was-
can't do her career.
She was a star on her high school track team, and she was destined for Olympic glory, is how they were sort of showing her. And then she ruptures her Achilles, and that's just it. She's done. And so then she goes to work at a Denny's, and she just sort of falls in love with her boss, who is this guy in his 40s, and he's divorced and he has a kid, and he's just like, oh, well, I'm too old for you, sorry, and she takes it well, and they sort of explore the kind of relationship they are actually allowed to have. It's because it's clearly it's not an equal relationship between these two, because she's 17 and he's mid 40s. And what I really liked about that show is how they showed it from his point of view. It wasn't all just in her head, and her thoughts. It was, they showed his home life and how he has to take his kid to school, and he has to talk to his ex-wife about things, and and now he has to deal with this. He goes to work, and here's this girl who's sort of like, do you need anything? But yeah, I like that show a lot. I don't know there's much to add about it.
I'm actually pretty interested in that.
I want to see did it end well? Like, it didn't have a Usagi drop moment or something.
No.
It stayed tasteful.
It ended well. Yeah. I think it was part of the
Noitamina.
Yeah, which is a sort of a programming block that airs really well thought out shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It has the ending from what's her name, Aimee, right? I think that's the only thing I know about it. The ending song.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I mean it seems interesting to me as well, because the way he described it, like the guy starts thinking about his own youth when he was a kid and his past troubles and stuff, right? So you got that flashback or melancholy type,
right,
remembering the past. So I just wanted to make sure that you still said it was okay. It didn't have a horrible.
No. Nothing bizarre or immoral happens in it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're moving on next to. I wrote this down as "Don't taste me, Miss."
Yeah, I read that. And I was like, "What is he talking about?" And then I sort of, oh, he means "Don't tease me, Nagatoro-san." Okay. This series, I seem to recall it originating as a series of still images on 4chan. Roughly 10 years ago, and it was just sort of this guy sitting at a bench looking at this girl who was just laying into him, or you're an awful weird gross otaku, aren't you? And she's just insulting him, but she's smiling the whole time, and it's sort of like, if you like being teased, this is the kind of girl you want to meet. And so it turned into a manga series, and it starts out, just he's an artist. He likes to draw, and he's drawing in his club room, and she sort of happens to come in, and she's like, "Oh, what are you drawing?" And she's really annoying, and she's constantly teasing him, calling him a gross otaku, and no one would ever date you, and all this stuff. And it as time went on, it sort of fell into having a plot similar to how Watamote, how that was just Tomoko's daily life, and here's this weird funny thing she does, and then gradually she starts actually making friends, and it becomes this whole other series, compared to how it started. But it's progressing very well. He's starting to get a backbone around her. Yeah. He's starting to give back as well as he gets. And
he kind of described it as a more mature version of the Tagaki-san manga we're talking about, because they were in elementary school or something for that one. They're in high school here.
Yeah, this is high school. Yeah. And so there's a lot more sort of sexual naughty teasing that goes on here. And they've even introduced another character who's the president of the art club, who just like walks around the school naked all the time.
Well, to be fair, I've read this as well. She didn't start that way. That's a little bit more
right.
Like her character starts to unravel a little bit later. But I pasted in 2 different reviews because this is really a show of 2 different views, like the different ways to view it. One reviewer really was uncomfortable reading this thing because, especially the early chapters, it really is bullying. Like, bullying
it absolutely is.
What she says to him and does to him and stuff, and they're like, oh, how could you handle this? Like, the author must be a masochist, which might be true, but that doesn't mean you can't read it.
Right.
So the other reviewer says, hold on a minute, and she doesn't just she completely randomly meets him, but she kind of actually sees his artwork as well, and she's the only one who actually likes his artwork early on, like the whole. And that other reviewer says, really, Nagatoro is attracted to this guy, but because she's socially above him, even though she's 1 year below him, but like, she's like popular and does sports. She's on the swim team, and he's like this loser that doesn't have any friends. Although apparently recently, like the latest chapter, he actually has friends. Everyone's like, what the hell? This guy has friends, but they might be just friends in his class. Like they don't come to the club or anything. But
correct.
So she doesn't know how to interact. I mean, there's something like he's probably like 14 and he's like 15, she's 14 or something. She doesn't know how to get her attraction across, and she also doesn't want to lose her social status, so she just goes to teasing. That's the way she shows it, and that's a one reading. Like that's actually an interesting reading to see. Like, and then she herself is also like locked into it now. And if you go with that reading, the way it goes later, she becomes more and more comfortable with just hanging out with him, and she drops the bullying. Like it becomes less and less, and she starts to not care that other people see them. Somebody else said this manga went from annoying to wholesome.
Yes.
Over time, so it kind of evolves the right way, but the start of it is very harsh.
Yes,
it's very harsh. Like this guy is a masochist, like whoever, and I think the guy who produced it, he himself he's become more moderated over time by doing this manga. But in the latest chapters, it's just like any other romance or slice of life type thing, and pretty well done actually. So the question is really, can you get over those first? Now this series is getting an anime.
Yes, it is.
So. And that maybe some people thought maybe that's why they gave this guy some guy friends. They're going to switch it up a bit in the anime and maybe not have it being so extreme. So it'll be interesting to see how the anime goes. It might become more palatable for a general audience.
Right.
But it still has quite a few people reading it, though, right? I think it's building up at least online a presence. Yeah. So
that anime is due in April.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see how the anime handles it. But I have a feeling that the anime may bring these male friends that are in there earlier on, and maybe just slow it down a bit. Also, the thing with anime, it goes too quickly, so all that might just be done in one episode, right? And then you're past like the stuff at the start that's like really.
Yeah, they have 74 chapters of material they can adapt from.
Yeah, in fact, I liked it better than what is that other one? The
Takagi-san.
Yeah, because he actually does stuff. He actually wins sometimes. Takagi-san is the one that's really annoying. I have a review for it because. It says, let's see the review here. It says it's in that the guy character there. He wants to outsmart her, and he never does. It makes it all more depressing. It's like Nishikata is Sisyphus, forever doomed to try changing his fate, and his efforts go to waste to repeat the same pattern over and over again. Basically, this girl's always teasing and making fun of him, and always getting the better of him, and everything, any contest, anything they do, to the point that people have theorized that this girl has traveled back in time from like being an adult where this guy died or something, and now she's trying to like manipulate the relationship to get into it earlier, and that's why she knows everything. She's a time traveler. Like that's how extreme that manga is. So I found it annoying. I stopped reading it, but you're still reading it, Bill?
Yeah, I'm still reading it, and he's starting to catch some feelings. She's a little more forward every chapter, sometimes she just straight out says, I like you. And either he misinterprets it as something else, or he hears it and he's like, no, she's gotta be, lying to me just to get a rise out of me. But he's had a couple instances where he makes her blush instead. And
but he doesn't win though. He still loses all the games, I assume, right? Or does he ever win?
Well, he wins, but he doesn't know it. And there is a spin-off series where they are adults and they have a daughter who's like 5 years old. So either you can take that as, it absolutely is a sequel, or it's maybe like one possible future with them,
Interesting. Well, I'm gonna read a little bit more of the review. Prodigy is an overused word. It's a term that's often given to people who don't deserve it. Takagi, the female character, however, is an exception. Not only is she able to unravel the most intricate of Gordian knots, but she also does so effortlessly. Not only does she repeatedly confound Nishikata with riddles, traps, and decoys galore, but she also manipulates each and every one to obscure her true motives. Yeah, time traveling to Takagi is the theory.
Yeah, I don't think I buy it.
Yeah, no, but she does have a positive impact on him though. She's not bullying him.
No,
he's the one
not.
he always he wants to defeat her in like challenges. He always fails, but that's his choice to initiate it. But she actually has a positive impact on him. Like he starts getting like more buff and stuff. Like he starts running and doing more exercise.
Right. Well, yeah, because like in one of the real early chapters, part of they always make bets. And one of the bets was that every time he loses to her, he has to do push-ups at home. And so in that spin-off in the future, he is in fact a elementary school PE teacher. He's got these big muscles.
I'm trying to construct in my head what the "Don't Taste Me" version of this would be. Maybe he's a sentient ice cream cone, and if you lick him, your soul gets sucked out. That's where I'm at. Right
I think "Don't Taste Me" is probably the most extreme of "Don't Tease Me," right? That's because she almost
true.
has a bit of sexual teasing early on. That's the most extreme, and she also gets embarrassed and stuff sometimes too, right?
Oh yeah.
So, but that contrasts a bit too much with what's early on. Like I feel like he was kind of just testing the waters with his first few chapters. It was just as you said. I think when you said Watamote, it's the same thing. They just had a concept, just threw it there and down in writing. It was a little extreme, and then kind of put it together, started putting a plot, started developing it, and the chapters 60, 70 is like completely different from the first few chapters. Like it actually is. So that's why I'm interested to see if the anime they might try to change that. They might also not care. Whatever. They might just do it to produce the exact thing. But I have a feeling they might moderate it a little bit, and the anime could actually elevate it even more to something that's popular. So that's going to be interesting. So April is said, right? The April season.
Yes, in April.
For that one.
Yeah.
The side character is interesting too. They're fleshing out the side characters in that one a little bit more, which is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like her friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They also they also kind of bully him at the start, and then they start to not do that. They start to get to know him, and
it's because Nagatoro is so possessive of him. There are times she's actually like jumping on his back, like, no, he's mine.
Well, the artist does her angry face very well.
Yes.
Like his art skills are quite good. He does like the angry face and like just like the smug grin very well. He has a lot of experience drawing that out, I think.
Yes.
That's one of the things about my anime list is like there's a lot of good reviews on there, and on my manga as well. And so we talked about the whole thing about it's kind of a social difference between them, right? That's one of the reasons why she might have bullied him at the start. But it's made clear that the senpai character, he actually has been bullied a lot, like in the past, and he kind of sees it like the same thing. But she's not trying to do that. She's almost like, I think, trying to like bully him to the point is like, why is he not pulling back? She's trying to like give him some tough love, which is not the right thing to do. You shouldn't do that. But when someone is 14 years old, they don't know any better, right? You have to analyze it from that point of view, and I think that's what this reviewer was talking about, and about the background there. So I think that the anime could have potential. I think the manga is a little bit, but that's extreme starting. It's going to be difficult for people to get over that. But it is interesting, like later on. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with the anime. And that's that. I don't see anything to add to that, Bill.
Nope.
What's this other show here?
That was A Place Further Than the Universe, which was about the 4 high school girls who go to Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't know that there's too much to say about this. Now, it was pretty popular when it aired, and it's a show about having a dream and following through with it.
Normal anime.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, back to me then. Before we have a long, we got a lot to cover. We're getting there. I wanted to go over manga I'm regularly reading now. I won't go into the details. I like to kind of keep track of it. Because we do these episodes, about every 6 months to a year. Although this one was longer, it's over a year, right?
Yes.
One Punch Man. I'm regularly reading both the manga and the webcomic. The webcomic's actually getting more development. And Zach, you've watched the first 2 seasons, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah, so the material that's being produced is really good. Like if they actually get a good studio for this thing again,
Please.
please get a good studio. Demon Hunter Studio, please sign up and Demon Hunter, there's only so much material. Switch to One Punch. We got a lot of good material.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
One Punch is still the manga and the webcomic is still my favorite, manga and webcomic and anime. Like it's my favorite. Well, anime could be, but I mean, my favorite Japanese product that I'm consuming is One Punch Man. Like that's my gold standard. I really enjoyed it. It's really good. The artwork is great in the manga. Although the webcomic guy, like the actual, he's getting better. His skills are getting better and better. He's like developing his art skill. So I read that regularly as it comes out, and I buy it regularly as well. The manga. Gekkan Shoujo no Ozaki-kan, I follow that. That's in manga format. What that one is, Zach, is basically, and there's an anime for this that was pretty funny. It's this guy who draws manga. He's in high school, and his friends are often gender swapped of what you would normally expect for these type of like relationships. So usually you would have a tsundere girl and with the guy, and the tsundere girl like punches the guy and stuff. And so he's like gender equal. So he has the guy be the tsundere, and he punches the girl.
Interesting. I like it.
But it makes you feel uncomfortable. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And
it's challenging your preconceptions, essentially.
Yeah, it exposes what I hate about the tsundere stereotype in the first place is it's not funny. Like when somebody gets punched across the screen, It's like, this is not appropriate either way. It doesn't matter what your gender is, it's not appropriate. And I think this person gets it, so they're trying to show that. So they have that kind of gender swap on a few of the characters. And the anime is funny. This girl, baby, she's a really short girl. Like she falls in love with this guy who's super tall, and he's drawn like this stuff, and it's entertaining. It's one I'd recommend if you're looking for an anime to watch from a few seasons ago. But it was good, and so I'm regularly following the manga. Mostly comedy, but a bit of romance in it. Attack on Titan, I'm following. Too much to cover here.
Oh, jeez. Yes.
We'll have to do that in a future episode. But I am following it, and it's.
Isayama sure loves Game of Thrones TV show.
I've seen that stuff.
Who was it that asked to apologize for their missed prediction on this, though? Was it?
Oh, that's me. In our last episode, I predicted it would be all done in December of 2019, and here we are, December 2020, and it's still going. And there's the final season is airing right now, which I don't think is actually going to be final. I think they're going to have one more season.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's going to have to really redeem things at the end here. It's like, what is going on here? Like, it's just.
It has Code Geass qualities.
I think it's crossed the Code Geass barrier. Yes,
the Code Geass Rubicon has been.
Yeah, but it's not as entertaining as Code Geass is when you're crashing several different trains at the same time.
Yeah, I'm basically reading this just because I want to complete it. I'm no longer actively enjoying this series. Like that's a sad truth of it, but I've invested so much into it. I'm like, I might as well see how it ends. But I don't like really read it right when it comes out. I'm just kind of following it. So
there are people who still actually say that this is like one of the best manga current ongoing, which baffles me.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes the fall of it so sad, because I remember it even a couple of years ago. We were at Anime North and these kind of conventions and doing panels on it, and it would get its own manga panel, it would get its own anime panel. There was so much depth to it. And then it just went the Game of Thrones TV route, basically. Like it's like this. The guy got inspired by the last few seasons of Game of Thrones. He's like, I can do that. Just make it longer. Yeah, so that's sad how it's fallen. It was also hit hard by the fact that it had the anime delay, right, in terms of fandom, like that. But then when it came back,
sure, but like it had a lot of attention with the second season. Like the second season with the twist with the two Titans. That got a lot of attention. I remember that was a huge moment. So it got a momentum back. It's just the manga material after that point is just it is what it is.
This guy's trying to he's trying to copy the guy in One Piece. I guess he wants to. He's wrapping it up. But,
it's not. Yeah, it has an endpoint. We are at that endpoint. It's just it's a very miserable endpoint.
Yeah. So much has already happened. It's just like, what are you going to do? Like, it's like, what is his ending going to be? Maybe that's his point. He always wanted to have this kind of dark ending, but Given the heights that it was 4 or 5 years ago, like it's just sad what's happened to it. Like where it is now. But it still had impact. Like its impact is still there in a lot of the shows. There's so many references to it in other shows that it's felt there. But yeah.
Well, it's like Code Geass. Like, is that a good thing?
Well, Code Geass, like I could still rewatch some of the episodes and enjoy it. I don't know if I would do that with Attack on Titan at this point. Anyway, I still read it though. We're still going through. You guys still reading it? Still going through the motion. Watamote is finally, I think, getting to its last legs because she basically has like a lot of friends now and is going to graduate soon. So I'm assuming it's going to start to end soon. I still read it. I still find it funny, but it's near its end, I think. The Devil's a Part-Timer was actually adapted in anime form. In fact, I don't even know if it had a manga originally. I think it was like a visual, either a visual novel game. No, I think it was
pretty sure it's a light novel.
Light novel, sorry, light novel
from its title.
Yeah. Did you watch the anime? Or you could tell from the title?
I've watched it. I've watched the anime.
You watched Devil in the Part-Timer? When did you watch that? When it first came out or recently?
Not when it first came out, but it's been like 4 or 5 years at this point since I watched it. But I liked it. I wasn't like one of my favorite things, but yeah, it was fun. It was like a fun concept, and I think it's before like it's not quite like an isekai, I guess, as much as I know about this stuff, but it's like a reverse one.
It's more like a one of those slice of life in the sense that it's actually slice of life.
Comedy it's reverse isekai. Guys come out of the magical world and they come to our world.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like the whole McDonald's stuff, McRonald, like corporations jokes, and like the anime is really funny. The problem was there wasn't enough material to adapt. Now there is actually a manga, and I've been reading it. Although I'm fairly certain I'm going to drop it soon. What's sad about the manga though is it kind of goes back into that world and focuses there. And I don't need like a C plot fantasy world manga, okay? Like that was not what was good about this work. What was good about it was the whole like our world and the corporate references and these guys having magical powers of being here. That was good about it. I'm not interested like this storyline of what's going on in the other world. So it's just I'm losing interest. You remember the character of Chi, who was like his underling, like or like
of course.
Not his apprentice, but like he was like her senpai kind of, but in the work world.
Yep.
Like she's not even in it anymore because she's back in Japan. Nobody cares what's going on there. It's all this stuff happening. Although I will say that it does give a little bit background on the character himself because you knew there had to be something more there. He couldn't be like pure evil given the way he acts in Japan, right? Like if he was purely evil, like he wasn't that evil in Japan. So he wasn't. There's some background to him.
Like actually a good guy. It felt like.
Yeah. So it gives you what I expected, but the problem is that it's so focused on that other world. Like I just cannot see there ever being another anime season to it because just no interest, and I'm losing interest in the manga. But I picked it up because it's actually moving ahead. But yeah, I think I'm gonna drop it soon, and that's about it. Other than I was for a few years I was actually reading through Haikyuu, which is the big volleyball one. Might be one of the biggest sports ones right now, actually. Yeah. And the problem with that one is the opposite of a lot of these works is too many chapters. I don't know what they got. Like, is it like a daily release or something? They're just pumping out chapters and
the One Piece conundrum.
Yeah, I mean the storyline was good, but it was just too much for me, and so yeah, I couldn't keep up with it. And then when you come back, like what? There's like 50 chapters to read. Never mind.
So I watched some of the anime of this. I did. I watched the first 3 seasons, so I know they're airing new stuff right now. I haven't watched any of that. But yeah, I mean, I think the anime was fun. I think that's really good at getting you invested in the characters. But reverse to kind of what you're talking about, the anime is so slow, like in the actual pace of the things that happen. Like the matches take forever, and like it's like every single move is like it's kind of like the flashbacky thing, or you just have to like talk for 5 minutes about why this matters to me for this reason.
And not just them, and the other team. You get like you get their backstory, and then you feel sorry for them. It takes forever.
To win because you learn all about them. Like there's a whole tragic story that you just want them to win.
Yeah, no, you're like, oh well. I think it raises the questions like, do you really need to be a completionist to enjoy a series? I mean, you could just pick up those few seasons and watch Haikyuu and then be done with it. And
I think I am done with it. I've seen enough.
Do you regret watching those first few seasons, or?
No, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but yeah, I think it is the kind of thing where it could overstay its welcome because it's just how much momentum could you have with this kind of premise, right? Like you win the big championship, like this was season 3. You win the big match against the huge rival, and like then what do you do? Right? Like it just has to keep escalating, kind of like a shonen, where it's gonna eventually stop being interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it. But as you said, somebody could still pick it up, enjoy it, and then drop it. Like you don't have to see everything in it. So yeah, I stopped reading it. Oh, one thing before we get to Bill here, just because we mentioned it briefly. So I didn't see My Hero Academia season 4. Do you guys see that?
I did.
Yeah, is it worth seeing? You think?
Yeah. It had one moment in the back half that genuinely like brought tears to my eyes. It was so delightful, but the animation takes a huge drop off. Like there's one part that's supposed to be a really epic fight, and it's basically like a slideshow, which is really awful. And I guess it was
Punch Man season 2 treatment then for some of the animation.
basically, I guess they're doing a big movie, and that took away a lot of the budget.
Yeah.
So yeah. It was not as good in that respect, and I think the whole plot line just like was kind of weird, and it kind of poorly paced for the first half, and the back half wasn't really like big important plot stuff. Like I say, it had a good emotional moment in it, but it was kind of fillery to some extent. So yeah, I mean, I'm still gonna keep watching it probably, but I definitely don't love it as much as like I feel like the hype for like the All for One fight and all that stuff.
Yeah. What part is it covering right now? Sorry, in the manga. I've not watched it. I've not been watching the anime.
So the anime leaves off. Should I just say? Does it matter? Like spoiler wise?
Just very general.
You can be
like,
general if you can talk general.
Yeah, so they do like the school festival, like the music festival.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Second half of the season.
Yeah, that's kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, it has one really nice moment that I enjoyed, but otherwise it was whatever.
Comedies. The part in the manga is also too pushed out.
Are you guys still there?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Bill now. He's got a lot of stuff to cover. I think you might have covered some of it already, but
I'm sort of editing on the fly here with my brain. So let's start off a year ago with the Madoka spin-off side story. This was an adaptation of the mobile game, which was about this magical girl who is trying to find out what happened to her younger sister, because her sisters seem to like get erased from the world. You know, nobody remembers her, and you know, I don't remember the show. You know, it seems to just sort of skate on the fact that it's a Madoka adjacent story, and you know, it just wasn't interesting.
But it was a sequel then, still, right? It still counts as...
It's not a sequel. It's like a side story. I got the impression it was an alternate timeline. They're not really clear about it. You do get cameo appearances from Mami and Sayaka, but I don't know. It just wasn't interesting. You know, and they brought in this whole secret society, and they were trying to fix the curse, and nobody trusted Kyubey, so it's almost like they knew something from the other timeline. You know, it's
or just use some common sense, maybe, that this might not be something you should trust.
Yeah.
It's a creepy looking guy. You can't trust them.
Yeah.
That's a little bit disappointing. I mean, to be honest, when we talked about we had a whole episode on Rebellion. Was Rebellion the third movie? I didn't really like it that much.
Right.
But the original series is worth seeing.
Yes.
So I watched it this year, and it's probably the best thing I saw this year. The original Madoka Magica series.
Yeah.
It's really good. Like, I know you guys have probably talked about this at length, but just for my part, like the pace of it's super good. The characters are good. The animation, like with the witch realm, I forget what that's called, but that area is really cool. Yeah. Then the music is outstanding too, and yeah, it was just like really well paced. It kind of had some Steins Gate energy in some ways, which I like because that's one of my favorite anime. So it was really good. I've been told though, like to not watch the movies by the person who recommended this, and I'm sure they're fine, but like I've been told like they ruined Homura Akemi's character, and she was my favorite character, so I don't want her to be ruined. I just think like the series was so perfect on its own that I just am good with that.
Yeah, and well, the first two movies are just recap movies anyways. It's really, would you watch the third movie? And I didn't like it, to be honest. And we covered it. We had a whole review of it, and essentially, like, we won't go into the details of the ending, but the ending was affected by like the creator wanted to do one thing, and then the creator wanted to do one thing, and then the director or the producer said, no, you need to do something else so we can do sequels, and so he had to change it. And when that happens, I don't like that. When it's like, that's like going to George, be like, you need to change the ending so we can do some HBO sequels. You got to change the ending to your series. Like, I don't like that effect, and I don't like the ending. And now we get this shitty side sequel that Bill doesn't even like. Yeah. It wasn't even worth it to make that change. But if you do watch it, then check out that review that we did years ago on it. Okay, let's continue, I guess.
All right. And the other maybe sort of notorious series from a year ago was called Ishuzoku Reviewers. It read to me like this was going to be like a 5-minute anime. You know, they were going to do 5 minutes, and then that was going to be it for each week. And so I was really surprised when the first episode came up, and it was a full 23-minute episode, which turned out to be because they animated the sex.
Oh.
Which absolutely surprised the hell out of me. Because the manga, it has them, sitting in the bar talking to each other, like, who are we going to go visit today? Oh, I want to go visit. And then that would happen, off screen. Well, in the anime, they showed it. And Funimation kicked the show off its streaming service because they were not prepared for this whatsoever.
Well, that's what I find surprising is why did they have it in the first place? And did they not do their research before they put it on there? Or?
Well, if they did their research, they never would have. There was no sex scenes whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's why I was thinking, it's going to be a 5-minute show where they just sit around at the bar, but no, they animated the whole stupid thing. It was kind of shocking,
Did they give a statement, or they just removed it?
No, they just said, okay, well, we aren't going to stream this anymore because it's, not what we thought we were getting.
Why did they stream it in the first place? Was it popular enough, like in the manga form, or did they just stream a lot of stuff?
It had to have been popular enough to get an anime, set up for it. But I think they were just not prepared for the actual content of the anime.
So I actually have a question about this.
Okay.
So, in general, is hentai the only time where anime can have sex actually happen? Like, is that the only time where it's kosher for there to actually be sex in the show? Like, is there never sex in any anime besides hentai? So can there be just, like, regular, like, story-driven sex, I guess, in other stuff?
Yeah, it happens. Usually it's never really shown in any detail. It's sort of like they go into the bedroom and it fades to black and it's just sort of implied what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just wonder about that because I don't think I've ever seen sex in anything I've watched, and like a lot of it is mature stuff, but it seems like it's like a weird no-go to never actually show that.
Yeah, that's sort of how Japan is. They don't really ever show it. It's just sort of the unspoken thing.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I was wondering about that.
It could also be that maybe some of the movies might cross that line more than series. I think. Like I feel like, or at least with nudity anyway. A lot of like more of the classical anime movies have like nudity all over the place, and it's part of the background, right? So I don't know if they go as far as sex for that, but it could be movies different from anime TV series.
So and then from this season, Jun Maeda, who is one of the founders of Key Productions, who made a lot of visual novels in the early 2000s. They made Clannad, they made Air, they made Canon. He, in particular, wrote Angel Beats and Charlotte in the past decade. Well, he came up with this new project, and he said that he wanted to make this series the most heartbreaking anime of all time. And he missed. I mean, It's about a high school boy who is just living his life, and then one day this young girl wearing a nun outfit walks up to him and says, "I am a god, and the world is going to end in 30 days." And he's like, "Yeah, whatever, kid." And so she follows him home, and to his surprise, his parents are like, "Oh, it's Hina. Hina's come to visit us." He's like, "How do you know her?" And their parents are just like, "She's an old friend." And so he's sort of pulled into this whole situation where this girl just sort of comes out of nowhere and integrates herself into his life. And it's hard to say a lot because I don't want to spoil it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think when you hype something up as being the most heartbreaking anime of all time, you really have to deliver on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't deliver. I think it was maybe a little too happy. You look at some of his past series, where looking at his past series, you sort of know what to expect from this show, because in everything else he's done, there's been a death in the cast, and so you're sort of expecting, okay, someone's going to die in this show, or maybe the world really is going to end. And it sets up these expectations, and when it just doesn't hit those expectations, it's a huge letdown. And it kind of reminds me of Mahoromatic, which was a show from the early 2000s about this android soldier who becomes a maid, and at the end of every episode of Mahoromatic, there's a countdown. It says number of days before Mahoromatic becomes disabled or inoperative. She's going to die, and so you're expecting it, and you're expecting it, and you're expecting it. And I didn't like the way that show ended either, for completely other reasons. But yeah, I don't think he succeeded in creating the most heartbreaking anime of all time.
Those are some big anime you're listing here that he created, like Clannad and Air and stuff. So
yeah,
maybe he, as you said, he put too much of an expectation on it. He should have said nothing. He just released it. Or he himself stated it. wasn't somebody else saying it, right?
No,
He's like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, he failed. He issued the statement, and it was read at, I think, Comic-Con or some other convention last summer.
He was mistranslated. He meant to say that I'm going to have everybody lose their faith in me. Like, I'm going to break everyone's heart.
I'm going to break everyone's heart without
breaking anime because it's not going to meet my standards. That's what he meant.
And he didn't need to make the statement at all, just because we know what he creates.
Yes.
So there's already an expectation that there's going to be tears.
Yeah.
And
so he got beaten out by that one with the ghost or whatever. Was that the one that we saw in the movie? And the girl in the river, like she died in like 2 feet of water. Was it? Do you guys remember we covered that? There's the girl died, and then they see it, and then he sees the ghost of her later. Like it's a crying fest. I don't have the. I said let's look it up in the forums. We don't have the forums.
Oh.
That's sadder than this anime. We have no forums.
That is the most heartbreaking anime.
Yes.
It was the end of the forums, which I'll have to see if Bill can help. But I think it may be unsalvageable. I made a change to it and didn't fix it.
I'll see what I can do to it. And then another show from this season that I really enjoyed, which is also from Studio Dogakobo, which is also the studio that produced Shoujo Geken Nozaki-kun.
Mm-hmm.
This one is called, where did it go? I just scrolled away from it.
Just 1 second. Is Bing back here? I think we lost you for a second. You're back, Bing? Bing? I think he was cutting out earlier. That's why he rejoined. Bing? We're losing you. This is the saddest anime ever. This is sadder than that anime.
It is.
Bing just dropped to mid.
Saddest
podcast ever.
He says his audio is gone. Typing.
If you guys any comments, type it in. We're probably getting near our end anyway, but yeah, continue, Bill.
So the other show from this season I'm really enjoying is called Maojo de Oyasumi, which translates to Sleepy Princess in the Demon Castle. And it's about this human princess who is kidnapped by the Demon King, that old trope. And so he takes her back to the demon castle, and he's like, "You're my prisoner now, ha 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 ha." And she's like, "That's great, I'm going to take a nap." So the entire plot of the series is that she just wants to sleep the whole time. And so, but the bed she has initially is, it's hard, it's lumpy, her pillow is awful, their sheets don't keep her warm at all. So each episode is she has a different quest to, create the perfect bed. And the first episode, she's like, "I need a pillow." And so she looks around at what she's got, and she sees all the teddy bear demons that have been sort of tending to her every need. Well, she brushes them, and she uses their hair, and then to, nice fluffy stuff to lay her head on. But then she also needs a pillow cover. So she breaks out of her gel cell, which is real easy because the teddy bear demons are now, they'll do anything for her because she brushes their hair. And she sees this giant floating ghost, just like a big old sheet. Well, that's perfect. And so she just goes up, she rips it in half. And so a lot of the series is she is just, cutting off arms of demons. "Oh, your arm is a pair of scissors. Well, I need that so I can cut up these other demons so I can create a nice comforter." And quite frequently during her escapades out of her cell, she ends up dying, and so she gets resurrected by the demon priest, who's like, "Please value your life more."
It seems pretty popular. I saw it was an 8 on the My Enemy list.
Yeah, pretty much anything made by Doga Kobo is very well produced, and it's really funny. It seems like about once a year, maybe twice a year, they try to produce something that's a little more serious, and it just kind of falls flat. It's not really the studio's kind of anime.
Cool. Is there anything else? I don't know if we want to go through everything you have here, although it seems like you've covered most of it anyway.
Right.
But there's anything you really want to cover other than the Tsukio and the update on the arsonist thing at the end? But is there anything from that list?
One thing I think I will mention is the Okumu-chan flashback manga, because we previously reviewed Mysterious Girlfriend X.
Right.
This is from the same author, and it's about a high school boy who, when he goes to sleep, in his dreams he sees his deceased father's memories of his mother. And so a lot of it is about, learning who his parents were when he was, before he was born, but learning who his parents were, when they were his age, and it helps him sort of start a relationship with a girl in his classroom. There's also sort of this funny thing where his mother is a manga artist, but the manga she's producing is like a spoof of Mysterious Girlfriend X.
That's funny. So he's kind of referring back to his previous work.
It's kind of an Easter egg for fans of that other series.
It seems to have a pretty high review here too. I say the concept of this one seems a lot more palatable than Mysterious Girlfriend X. That one was gross.
There's a lot less drool tasting in this one.
Oh, Bing's back.
Oh, you can hear
This
me
is
now.
no longer the most heartbreaking anime.
Okay, I have no idea what I did to turn my audio back on then.
We had to make 2 more podcasts just to bring you back, to resurrect you, Bing. Don't mess it up.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, I have no idea what I did. I have no idea what I did to lose the audio. I have no idea what I did to revive the audio. I did nothing different.
Well, we have you back because we have this news update, I guess, to wrap it up, because we talked about this before in one of the previous episodes. Bill, if you could tell us about the update.
Yeah, so just brief recap. A year ago in July, there was this guy who went into the Kyoto Animation Studios building with I think it was like a wagon full of barrels full of gasoline, and he lit them on fire, and very few people survived out of this attack. And so he was arrested, but he could not be formally charged until he was discharged from the hospital. And that finally happened a couple months ago. And they also had to determine if he was sane or not in order to stand trial. Mm-hmm. So that is starting to proceed. Donations to the families of those who died in the attack. They had to pass a special tax law in Japan just so that all that money would not be taxed, because there was some rule about foreign money coming into the country that they had to tax it at some high rate, and so they wanted to make sure that all the money would be used for what it was intended for.
We had discussed. I mean, it was not only a tragedy for the anime industry; it's generally a tragedy overall in Japan. As well,
yes,
mass killings, right?
Yeah, I think there's one incident which had a higher body count, but they aren't sure if it was a terrorist attack or if they weren't sure that it was homicidal, because they never found any evidence that someone perpetrated it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this was a major event a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say about it other than it happened. It was tragedy, and maybe something better. Well, the studio thankfully is now back in work.
Yes.
They're making shows again, so that's good.
Yeah.
I think the global support did help in that regard. But yeah, there's not really much to say. It is what it is.
You can sort of speculate on maybe what the studio was working on at the time of the attack, and I think it was probably the second season of Dragon Maid, and that is finally. I'm not sure when that's going to be, but I think they just released their first trailer for it.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a sad end to the podcast. We should have covered.
It's 2020.
Yes, that's 2020.
Yeah.
That's
on theme.
Yes.
Yeah. Did the year-end recap back with the team, and we covered a lot. So there's a lot out there for anyone listening. They have a lot to cover.
It was fun.
Yeah, it is. And there's a few things you maybe didn't cover, but Bill's just save it for the next one. We can see what your final thoughts. Maybe you'll hate it by the time we get to the next
Sure.
episode. Check us out on bastardsofkingsgrave.wordpress.com, and you can just always check us on Discord. We have the same Discord as Podcast of Ice and Fire. There's no point in making a different sub for that. And if they ever come up again, check us out there. And we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. Nope. Okay. Good, guys. Let's end this. It's late.
Yeah.
I had a super quick question.
Sure. Go ahead.
Is there what are the brief feelings on the fact that Sony/Funimation acquired Crunchyroll? Is that a big deal, or does that matter?
Well, we don't know what's going to happen yet.
Oh, we don't.
We don't.
What they're gonna do? Yeah. How they're gonna.
I mean, are monopolies bad?
Yeah, so that's generally speaking, consolidating and not having competitors is probably not good. But.
That's bad. That's Crunchyroll. I mean, it's funny thing about Crunchyroll that it started out illegitimate, right, and then it became a legitimate company. But now you're saying, if it all becomes under one owner, then they may potentially drop things. You think, or have a lower quality?
Well, Crunchyroll has the thing.
Oh no!
Oh no!
What?
I think you're back, but you're cutting out a little bit.
Bang.
Or is he? We're never going to know.
His mic overheated, I think. That's what happened. And then it cooled down for a bit. Now it's heating up again.
Hello?
Oh, you're back. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't know what's going on here. It doesn't sound any different on my end.
I don't know. Audio's weird.
He was going to the shadow zone.
I guess. What was I was just going to say that what was I going to say? I forgot.
You're saying the thing about something.
Oh yeah,
the monopoly thing.
Right, yeah. Well, Crunchyroll has the better. I was just going to say Crunchyroll has the better technology. Usually, it's generally acknowledged that Crunchyroll has the better player, but Funimation tends to have bigger titles. And I remember until a few years ago, shows would broadcast both on Crunchyroll and Funimation for a while, and then they split again, right? So they've been having this weird relationship on and off. I don't know. who knows what Sony has plans for, what plans Sony has for Crunchyroll. But if it all gets consolidated into a single entity, I don't think it's really a good thing. But
yeah, you'd hope it would, like, I don't know, unify releases and make things clearer. But generally speaking, you worry about the quality hit that might happen just because of the consolidation.
Yeah, like, and Crunchyroll has been putting out a bunch of these weird Crunchyroll original titles, right? That's kind of reminded me when Tokyo Pop was at their worst financial stage. They started pumping out a bunch of Tokyo Pop, the manga licensing company. They start pumping out a bunch of these English original mangas. So you can sort of see the signs of this coming. But I think right now the bigger fishes in the pond right now are Netflix and Amazon.
Right, like they're going to try to own the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, especially because now Netflix and Amazon have now gotten directly involved in terms of anime production. And like Netflix is directly funding a bunch of these anime, and they're going directly on their platform.
In some sense, that can be good if it becomes more popular in the West. Like all the better, right?
Sure.
If they produce good stuff, but
yeah, but you don't get sort of. I mean, Netflix is Netflix. They dump everything at once, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, they do that in North America, but
not in Japan.
Right. Because when I was watching Carol and Tuesday,
Ooh, I watched that.
which I should have talked about now that I think about it.
Go ahead if you want to talk about. We're still here.
Carol and Tuesday.
After show chat.
Carol and Tuesday is it was produced by oh God, what's his name? The Cowboy Bebop guy.
Shinichiro Watanabe.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about these girls who live on Mars who sort of become this pop music duo, and they go on sort of an American Idol, Mars Idol type TV show. And one of the girls is an orphan, and the other girl, her mother is a candidate for president of Mars. But the real highlight of that show is all the music. And it's all the songs are in English except for like one that's in French, but it's all really good music. You know, you can find the music for this show on Spotify, and it's, you know, terrific. But what was my point here? It was being produced by Netflix, and in the U.S. you had to wait, you know, until there were 13 episodes saved up, and then Netflix would drop all of them all at once. Then you would have to wait another 3 months to get the other half of the series. But like in Japan, they released them once every week.
I mean, it was a good show. It had, like you said, the music was great, and I still listen to it on some playlists. But it got a little over ambitious toward the end in what it was trying to do, and it had the same problem as the show you were talking about, the most heartbreaking anime ever, where like every episode it would start with, "This was the best 7-minute performance
I know.
of all time." Like it's teasing that in the final episode, and it actually wasn't that great. So,
yeah,
that was the thing. But yeah, I just hate the Netflix model in general, and I hope they change it. Like the binge model, I just think is not the way.
Unfortunately, they're never going to change it.
Maybe not.
That's what they do. I mean, looking at like Netflix right now, they've got a bunch of these titles that it just simply on the nature of them being on Netflix, they just sort of don't get talked as much. I mean, I want to watch Japan Sinks, but I didn't even know this thing came out. Dorohedro was really good. I'm not a furry, so maybe Beastars is not
Beastars.
I wasn't initially that interested in Beastars, and then I watched it. It was like, oh, you know, it
actually looks kind of interesting.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah, give it the 3-episode try.
Sure.
A friend of mine like only watches Netflix or anime on Netflix, which annoys me because like I want to recommend stuff that's not on there, and they watch like everything that's on Netflix, so I hear about all the stuff that they pump out.
Yeah, apparently they have Nino Kuni on there.
Their streaming service, they just like they want the Netflix, and that's all they want.
That's sort of the problem. Like, and then when how it's fight it. Oh, my God again.
comes Ted Sarandos. He's gonna cut the mic. All right, we can be good with that, I guess.
Yeah, good guys.
All right.
All right.
Cheers. Have a good night, guys.
All right, you too.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm late.
Hello.
Turn down the volume a little bit now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. It's been a while since I used Skype.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, Zach.
Hello.
Hey, Zach.
Hey guys.
How much time do you have? Do you still have till midnight your time, or are you guys busy?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Good. Anyone else have a recorder?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
I got my own running, which is good.
I've got OBS running. That's
Okay,
an
good.
option.
Good to have a backup.
Yep.
Another backup. I'm just looking at the document. We got a lot written. It's been a long time, so we have a lot of.
Yeah, I suppose. Although I, to be honest, I have not watched much at all.
Well, I'll ask about that at the start. Like, when we start, I'll say, like, has your viewing stuff changed at all with the pandemic this past year? I don't think it has for many people. I know I'll be interested to hear, and then we'll kind of go into it. And then Zach, you said you had a question about manga.
Yeah, just a couple questions about like where to get started, like in what form you read it, like a physical copy, is it like if you do something else and that kind of stuff?
Sure. If you have the document open, we'll start when I kind of talk about some of those past movies I saw, and then after that, right before we actually get into manga we've read and stuff, we'll deal with your question, because then part of the answer will, in terms of what are interesting ones to read, they'll be there, but like, and then we'll also talk about generally like where do we actually read it and stuff like that.
Cool.
Okay, so we'll slot that in here. I'm going to move manga I'm actively reading maybe after. I just have so much in a row, it might get boring to me talking over and over again. So I'm going to move that behind Bing. So we'll have Bing will talk for a bit, and then I'll get back to manga I'm doing. And then Bill will round us up near the end with the massive stuff. And some of the stuff I've seen, I've seen some of your stuff, so I'll be able to contribute to that.
Okay.
And we'll also have questions or whatever. Like,
Right.
I'm trying to avoid major spoilers on any of these, because the point is, I guess it's kind of an intro to all these different shows if anyone wants to pick them up, right? It's kind of a but if there's like a particular show you really want to get in the ending, that's fine. Like that you can, like for example, like the twins. I don't want to go who actually won the twins. I don't think we have to go into that to discuss it, right?
Right.
So,
And there's a sequel series coming out next year.
Oh, is there?
Yes.
That's interesting.
In about a week or so, probably.
Cool. We'll bring that up when we get there then. Okay, just give me 1 sec. Okay. Are we good to start?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, here goes.